here, sure. Well, good morning. My name is Bruce Gordon. I'm with the Minnesota Department of Public Safety. Thank you for joining us here today, and thank you those who are watching around the state of Minnesota online. Carbon monoxide is a colorless, odorless gas, and it can be deadly. 1 year ago this month, Denice Johnson lost her son to carbon monoxide poisoning while he was ice fishing on Leech Lake. Jared was a 34-year-old father and firefighter with the Eastern Hubbard County Fire Protection District. Today, Ms. Johnson is speaking out for the first time in hopes that it will save another family the heartache of losing a loved one to carbon monoxide poisoning. You will also hear today from Tina Monroe, the sister of Jared Johnson, Billy Krotzer, a family friend and assistant fire chief who worked with Jared at the Eastern Hubbard County Fire Protection District. Jim Smith is the Chief Deputy State Fire Marshal, and Dr. Christopher Logue, who is a hyperbaric medicine specialist at Hennepin County Medical Center. Also with us today is Todd Langevin. He is with the Minnesota DNR. He is a conservation officer with the DNR. Jim Smith.
Thank you, Bruce. Good morning. All heating units, whether they're fueled by LP gas, kerosene, or even wood, have the ability to emit carbon monoxide gas. Carbon monoxide gas, as Bruce said, is odorless, it's tasteless, it's colorless, but most assuredly, carbon monoxide gas can be deadly. If heating units are not installed, maintained, or used properly, carbon monoxide can build up to lethal levels in mere minutes, especially in poorly ventilated spaces such as some ice houses. The heart-wrenching story you're about to hear drives home this point very well. So at this time, I would like to introduce Jared's mother, Denice Johnson, to the podium, and we all thank her for telling us her story.
Good morning. On January 17th of 2016 was the worst day of our lives ever when we received news that our son had died due to, at that point in time, we weren't 100% sure carbon monoxide poisoning, but that was the probability. It was heartbreaking. It's continued to be heartbreaking. Our son loved the out of doors. He loved fishing, he loved hunting. Every chance he got, he would go. He knew better as a fire personnel. He knew better. But it wasn't his fish house. And it wasn't actually a fish house, it was a converted camper. It makes us very sad. My heart broke when I heard earlier this month of a young lady who lost her life to carbon monoxide. And there just has to be something that can change. People need to be more and more aware of this. I would never want any family to suffer what we have suffered. Jared left behind 2 children. He left behind a gazillion friends. This has destroyed his dad. It's broken me. It's a really tough thing. And it's an easy, not too expensive fix. And I would hope that anyone who sees this, anyone who knows of Jared's death, of anyone else's, I would hate to see this happen to any family because it's not necessary. It never needs to happen. It just is a case of step up to the plate, be responsible. And that's what our hope is, that even though we no longer have our son with us, that no one else loses their son, their daughter, their grandchild, any member of their family over something so senseless.
Hi, I'm Tina. I'm Jared's older sister. Losing him has made a great impact on my life. He has always had a love of the outdoors since he was a little guy, and I'm saddened greatly that he doesn't get to share that passion with my children. So I'm trying to do the best that I can in that aspect, but big shoes to fill there when it comes to hunting and fishing. Didn't get an opportunity to learn all his tricks and trades. Another big hole is on the fire department. I grew up, my dad was the fire chief in Akeley for many years. He decided to step down after my brother's death. I think it was just a little bit overwhelming. But we noticed that loss. My brother really enjoyed giving back to the community and was always willing to help out. So it's really has been hard and noticeable anytime we get calls and he's not there. Plus, he was always good for being hard on equipment, so we always kind of joke now that when we get something new, we don't have Jared to break it in for us like it should be. So, but yeah, I'm with the same thing too. Was very saddened to hear of that young female's death earlier this month. Again, too, that could have totally been avoidable. Also, too, we're seeing with the enclosed boating now that law is going into effect in May, where carbon monoxide detectors are going to be mandated. And I would like to see the same thing happen for ice fishing houses. I know that people get very creative nowadays and will use just about anything to put out on the ice or other outdoor activities. But any time you can do anything to save a life, I think we should be taking all steps that we can to do that. The other thing I have too, it wasn't my brother's fish house. He was with others. I would urge people to you want to have the trust in the individuals that you're with, that they have your back and they're keeping, trying to keep everybody safe. But I would too, for people to make sure that you're looking yourself, looking to, checking to make sure that those proper things are there in place, especially if you're going to spend a night out in a fish house. Make sure that there is a carbon monoxide detector. Make sure you do crack that window a little bit, even if you do have a CO2 detector. Also, too, I don't think people realize that carbon monoxide detectors have expiration dates. It's not something that you buy and never have to replace again. So there's a lot of things that come with that. So I think all of us are just hoping that we can bring something good out of this. My brother would want that, that so nobody else has to go through what we have. So.
I'm Billy Crosser. I worked with Jared for my entire time at the fire department, and like she said, he was hard in equipment and great to have around, and was probably one of the best guys there to help train the new guys, be there for the new guys. Was there for me. It's just not the same department since he's been gone. So, but I think there should be a law in place. I mean, the boats ones, and ice houses actually I think kill more people, and that should be in place. So, yeah.
It's an honor to be here. My name is Dr. Christopher Logue. I'm the medical director for the Center for Hyperbaric Medicine at Hennepin County Medical Center, where we use hyperbaric oxygen to treat moderate to severely poisoned carbon monoxide poisoned patients. Carbon monoxide is the leading cause of poisoning deaths, not only in the United States, but worldwide. Accidental poisoning deaths. As you know, it's a colorless, odorless, and tasteless gas, so you can't sense it in the environment, and detectors are very important in helping prevent them. We treated 77 cases of moderate to severely poisoned carbon monoxide patients last year. We've already treated 3 of them from ice fishing houses this year, and we always see roughly about 1 to 2 fatalities in ice fishing houses per year is on average what we see, unfortunately. So the important things to let people know about is that the symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning can include things you experience. It can be nonspecific, including headache, nausea, lightheadedness. You can have an unsteady gait. Your heart can race, and you can have palpitations. You can lose consciousness, and then have seizures, coma, and then death if you're not removed from the environment quickly. The way carbon monoxide poisons your body is that it binds tightly to heme-based proteins, so it binds to your hemoglobin that carries oxygen through your blood. It binds to your myoglobin, which is in your muscle cells, and it also gets into your cells and gets into your mitochondria and prevents your cells from functioning properly as well. It binds very tightly to those proteins, and it prevents oxygen from being delivered throughout the body safely. So I did bring my lapel today is a carbon monoxide detector. When I heard about this media conference, I went online and purchased this for about $100, and it's a high sensitivity, low level carbon monoxide detector that can help save lives. And I encourage everyone to be aware of carbon monoxide poisoning, not only in your homes, in your garages, but when you're out enjoying the 10,000 lakes of Minnesota, whether it's in an ice fishing house or in a boat. Thanks for having me.
So the only way to safely heat your ice house is using a unit that's designed or rated for indoor use. If you bring a portable heater to your ice house, make sure that it's rated for indoor use and is not rated for outdoor use. Outdoor use only heaters do not have the safety features built in that can protect you from carbon monoxide poisoning. Also, if you have a permanently mounted heater inside your ice house, make sure that it is vented correctly to the outside of the house. To that point, when you show up to your ice house, make sure you do a 360-degree walk around of your ice house. Look at the sidewall vents or the vents on the roof and make sure that in your absence they were not covered by snow or ice. I'm an ice fisherman myself. It's a great Minnesota pastime, but we all need to do it safely. There's 3 key elements that we can talk about to prevent carbon monoxide poisoning. 1, make sure that the heating unit you are using in your ice house is rated for indoor use. 2, make sure that heating unit is vented properly to the outside. And thirdly, always make sure you have a battery-operated CO detector inside your ice house. And one side note to remember is that we're talking about winter time and we're talking about 9-volt batteries. If that 9-volt battery is left in the cold ice house during your absence, there's a good possibility that it will drain down. It's a great idea. Every time you go to your ice house, put a 9-volt battery in your pocket and have a fresh one there for you the next time you show up. Jared's death is a horrible tragedy. On that day, as you just heard from his family and friends, their lives were changed forever. Our purpose today is that we hope people hear this message and do everything they can do to prevent another death such as Jared's. Thank you.
This time we'll take questions.
Chief Deputy Smith, real quickly, what can you tell us about the actual cause of Jared's death? What was wrong with that heating unit inside that ice house? Was it not properly vented? Was it blocked? Tell us more about the actual investigation.
The State Fire Marshal Division was not involved in that investigation, and it would be improper for me to comment on that since I did not visually inspect a house or anything like that, so I really can't expound on that.
What kind of levels are we talking? I mean, I've heard that 70 is kind of a threshold. Is that correct?
Do you want to?
Sure. Yeah, so for your residential housing, your carbon monoxide detectors, when they build your house, it will need to detect at 70 parts per million. And it's a time-weighted average, so it'll be 70 parts per million for a certain period of time. And then the time-weighted average goes down as the parts per million goes higher. OSHA requires, if you go to work, you're required to be exposed to less than 50 parts per million in a work environment. So those are the...
And Doctor, how quickly, give us an appreciation for just how quickly this can hit.
That's a great question, and it really depends on the person. So the people that are at highest risk are the children, elderly, and those with medical comorbidities, but you can become confused in the 100 to 200 parts per million range, and you can start to have symptoms below that of headache and things like that.
in that range, I mean, are we talking hours or minutes, or what are we talking?
Yeah, there's not a lot of great data on exactly studying those symptoms in people. We don't expose people to carbon monoxide, but you would probably be experiencing symptoms within 5 to 10 minutes in levels in the 70 to 100 parts per million range, and that would be sort of me speaking off the cuff about that.
Why is there no law requiring carbon monoxide detectors in ice houses?
Probably a better question for the legislature.
But if you, I mean, if you want, anyone wants to weigh in on that, is this something that is long overdue? I mean, 1 to 2 deaths a year, that's not insignificant.
No, it's not, because what kind of price do you put on a life?
Would you mind just?
I agree with you, because what price do you put on a life? A $10, $20, even $100 carbon monoxide detector versus a life? How much is a life worth? For me, I could wish that I had one of those on each of his lapels and each of his pockets, of course. For us, we're still wondering, we're still asking. There were 4 people in his party that went fishing. Jared died. One gentleman did come to your hospital and was treated, and 2 others were examined by our local EMTs and paramedics and released and drove themselves home. You know, how does that happen? We've asked ourselves that question a lot. We're never going to have a true answer. Like you said, it's real hard to do much testing on carbon monoxide poisoning because you're putting somebody at risk. It's just such an easy fix, and it's, like I said, it's not super expensive. And I know tons of avid fisher persons, men and women alike. My daughter and my husband purchased an ice castle this year for their own use, and those do come equipped with CO2 detectors. But, you know, after the loss of my son, I might have to find out where to get those, because I'd like to put one of those on my husband. I'd like to put one on all my grandkids when they're in there. You know, it happens, and, you know, no one's ever really explained to us what they felt, but we know that the people had those little sun heaters in the shack, and those aren't meant to be used indoors in that type of setting, you know. So
Did they have any other type of heater? Did they have a permanent heater in the ice
I
house?
think so. I didn't go, and Tina actually went and saw.
What you guys are comfortable with, and what you know of the circumstances of that night?
Basically, the day that the evening that we got the call and stuff, we went out there just to retrieve his truck, because he had a lot of belongings in there, and to see that sit out on the ice and stuff. So we actually didn't, other than going and getting his phone in the truck the night of the accident, the night of his death. It was the next day when we went back, when we were still trying to locate some of his items and stuff, that we kind of, you know, checked things out a little bit and stuff. So typical, you know, camper that you would see, that had been converted. It did have a furnace in there, whether or not that was really working, you know, and part of the difficultness of this, I guess, is the individual that actually owned the fish house. We tried to get together with him in the beginning to just try and get some questions answered, and he didn't want to, and stuff, and so we've had questions that have never really been answered. The medical examiner was great. He was able to answer some questions that I had, and stuff that helped, and everything. So rightfully, I don't know if the furnace was in working condition, but there definitely was some the sunflower heaters in there, and you know, not physically being a responding unit there. You know, I do know, though, looking at it, you know, besides them, which usually 2 houses now, your a lot of times they'll use snow, or in this particular case, they had really heavy material that was going around the skirting of it to try and block out the light and stuff like that. But I also know too that they had those over the doorways and stuff too. So, you know, basically what we were just told is that it just, you know, what heating was in there wasn't properly vented. There also too was a generator that was outside that they were using obviously to power electricity for lights and stuff like that, but that was actually located outside. So, you know, shouldn't have been much issue with that. My brother was located on the floor, and, you know, we didn't really ever get the answer of if that's where he was. I mean, if that's where he was, you know, if he was sleeping. You know, there was 4 individuals in there, and there really wasn't, quote unquote, it was converted over. So there was, other than there being a couch, there wasn't, you know, like sleeping facilities, I guess you would say, or places to sleep. So we don't really know either if he was actually sleeping on the floor, or if, you know, there was some speculation that he had some bruising and stuff, so that he could have potentially came through, realized something was wrong, and tried to, and, you know, then ended on the floor. But again, those are answers that I just don't think we're ever going to have. Even if the individual was to ever sit down with us, I honestly don't think that we would ever get a truthful, full answer, you know. So heart of hearts, I don't really believe a couple of those individuals were there, unfortunately, because how do 2 people not be, you know, walk away? But again, there's a lot of variables I know that can go into that. But, you know, it's just try to make do with what we've.
1 or 2 more questions. And
In answer to your question, I have a picture here. It's very fuzzy. The last picture, my boy. And he sent that to his dad about 9:30 that evening, the evening before. And he was the only one that caught a fish on this trip, which was awesome since it's his last. In speaking with the ME felt that chances are that Jared had passed in the early morning hours. The original medical call didn't even come in until after 4 in the afternoon. So yeah, do we have a lot of unanswered questions? Of course we do. Do we hope and pray no one else ever has to have these unanswered questions? You bet, from the bottom of our hearts. I don't want to see any other family broken like we are. It's not a good place to be. So.
1 more question.
Jim, I wanted you to clarify that law that takes effect in May, is it? Was this in response to that boating fatality out on Lake Minnetonka where the cabin sucked in the carbon monoxide?
I believe that's what it's in response to. The Sophia's Law does take effect May 1st, 2017. That one's specific to motorboats with an enclosed compartment regardless of the fuel type. So anything with a designated sleeping accommodation, a gallery where there's a sink in it somewhere where you would hang out, or a bathroom compartment. So I'm assuming that's what it's in response to, but I'm not 100% sure. Right now, there are no regulations on ice house safety. In our book, our fishing regulations, we do have the 3 different types of heaters that are commonly used. Sunflower heaters, which are recommended not to use. So that's right now is just, we're trying to get the word out that what to use safely and what not to. So, but other than that, that's all we really have.
Officer, do you have any sense, Scott with Fox 9, of I mean, you guys are in these houses. I mean, not official numbers, but is there, what's the compliance on the CO2 detectors? Would you say the majority of ice houses, our guys have CO detectors in them?
I really can't even answer. It all depends on the person, how safety conscious they are. Usually the bigger type ice castles, those more built ones, more for that type of compartment, are going to have them in them standard issue with them. Most of the homemade ones, probably very few have them in there. Like again, it would be up to the actual fisherman or the owner. So.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Something tells me that laws will expand.